Okay, I'm going to call this meeting of the East Veterans Elementary School Building Committee to order. And is it Yash or Chris going to take the roll call for
I'll let,
inventory?
I'll let Yash do it just because I'm a little rusty. I'm sure I need to witness it again.
Yeah, so yeah, I hate to say that Yash will not be part of the meetings going on from now on. He's moving on to some other projects. He's got some exciting work going on. He's working on a shopping center out in Western Mass and a few other things. So I'm sorry to see him go, but we're happy that Chris will be back on the team. As you might remember, you know, Chris had that role previously, but then he had to finish up some work on another school project. So we're playing a little bit of moving chairs now.
Okay.
Chris will take over as of next month, and Yash will see us out tonight. So Yash, can we get a roll call vote?
Yeah. Jonathan Pope.
Here.
Thank you. Ben Lemus.
Here.
Thank you. Katie Clancy.
Here.
Thank you. Richard Sapphire.
Here.
Thank you. Matthew Fusco.
Here.
Thank you. Amy, she's not here. Grant Harris.
Here.
Thank you. John Dunn,
No.
not here. Gary Fresh.
Here.
Thank you. Caitlin Nunes.
Here.
Thank you. Tony Gross,
Not here.
not here. Stacy Capone.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a quorum. This meeting is being held. Let me see if I can get,
Here, I can pull it up for you if you want that.
I got it right. This meeting is recorded by video and audio in accordance with state open meeting law, consistent with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. The meeting will be conducted by remote participation. The public may not physically attend this meeting, but every effort will be made to allow the public to view and listen to this meeting in real time and participate when necessary. Okay, and that being said, the first order of business is the approval of the minutes of what was the date?
January 12th.
January 12th, 2023. Are there any corrections or omissions? Okay, I just had one, and it's just a technical point on the attendance. Kathy is listed as the chair. She's the chair of the school committee, not the chair of the building committee. I think there was one other inconsistency. I was listed as the former chair of the building committee and as opposed to the former chair of the school committee. But other than that, I have nothing. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, I will make a motion that we approve the minutes of January 12th, 2023 as amended. And I so move.
Second.
And roll call vote, please. Yes.
Yes, sir. Jonathan Pope.
Yes.
Thank you. Ben Lemus.
Yes.
Thank you. Katie Clancy.
Yes.
Thank you. Richard Sapphire.
Yes.
Thank you. Matthew Fusco.
Yes.
Thank you. Grant Harris.
Yes.
Thank you. Gary Fresh.
Yes.
Thank you. Caitlin Nunes. Thank you. Stacy Capone.
I think you're muted. Stacy.
Yes.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Did anybody else join? Tony or John? Oh, okay.
Okay. The next order of business is the invoices, and I'm going to turn it over to Brian to present those.
Okay, we have 5 invoices up for approval tonight. The first invoice is for WT Rich requisition number 18, the amount of $2,759,815. And that's for their ongoing work on the site for the month of January. Work's pretty much being completed in all parts of the building. The second invoice for Doran Whittier, invoice number 45 in the amount of $91,385.50. And this is for their construction administration services for January. And there's also some work for some of the playground changes that were made and the lead services. These are all included in the packet. There was $1,000 of markup that was not included on a previous invoice. So that was included in this month's invoice for Doran Whittier. Invoice number 3, PJIN 0034535 for CBRE in the amount of $60,000 is for the project management services in January. And then we have an invoice for UTS, invoice number 103708 in the amount of $5,000. And that was for window testing that was done in December and January. And to date, all the window tests have been satisfactory. So that's good. And then we have our first invoice for some technology equipment. We needed to get this ordered early. And we have an initial delivery of some of the cabling that was done under this purchase order. And the invoice amount is $12,420. So we'd like to have all 5 of those invoices approved in the amount of $2,928,620.50.
Okay. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion that we approve the 5 invoices as presented for the total amount of $2,928,620.50. And I so move.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please, Yash.
So Jonathan Pope,
Yes.
thank you. Ben Lemis,
Yes.
thank you. Katie Clancy,
Yes.
thank you. Richard Safar,
Yes.
thank you. Matthew Fusco,
Yes.
thank you. Grant Harris,
Yes.
thank you. Gary Frisch,
Yes.
thank you. Caitlin Nunes,
Yes.
thank you. Stacy Capone,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, it passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which can't really see it, is usually the update.
Monthly update. Yep. Okay, thanks, Jonathan. So you can see the exterior of the building is really taking shape nicely. We have the metal panels that are getting finished up here by the art room in the media center. I also have 2 images here in the interior where there's really a lot of work that's been being put into place. We have much of the tile work that's been going in the corridors as well as the restrooms, and also a lot of the cabinetry for the classrooms that is already being installed. So all that is moving along quite well. The project continues to track on time and on schedule, despite the challenges that we've had with material availability. But we've been rallying as a team to address the issues as they come up. Recently, we had a pretty big one with some permanent power that was expected from National Grid. We had a work request that was issued mid-2021, and we were expecting transformers originally in about October of last year, and then it was moved out to December. But last month, we heard that there were additional delays with material availability, and it was looking like we were not going to be getting the transformers in time to get the school opened. So, we worked with National Grid, and there was a lot of rallying within the team with calls and negotiations. The CM, WT Rich, our office made contact, and even members of our school building committee, Ben, Kathy, John Dunn, Mayor Verga, Joe Lucido, all of them played an important role in kind of shaking the tree to see if we can get this resolved. So we did have some conversations then with project management staff at National Grid, as well as our community liaison, Joe Morocco. And I'm happy to report that we have a positive outcome. So thanks to everyone's efforts, it looks like we've been able to avoid this delay, and we're expecting a temporary transformer to arrive within a couple of weeks, and a permanent transformer. Right now, I guess the last thing is that it's planned for May. But
Brian, sorry to interrupt. I just want to confirm that the permanent transformer is due in the next couple weeks.
Oh, so that moved up even more. Okay.
Yep. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that.
So it's getting better day by day. So that makes, this other thing even less of an issue, because we were also told by National Grid that if they did have to, swap it out once school has started, that they would work around the school schedule. So anyway, it seems like that doesn't matter anymore, as we're expecting to get the permanent one in very quickly. So,
Brian, just quickly, I just want to make sure that the full committee just understands the sort of nature of this effort. First of all, it's been going on for quite some time, but then really sort of hit, with all hands on deck over the past month or so, and and has been changing really day by day. So, the last I heard on Monday, I think it was, they said, yes, we'll take care of a temporary one, but then the next day wasn't, maybe this last week, then the next day wasn't sure if they could get us a temporary one, the kind we need. And then since then it was resolved to get one. And then now Alex is just announcing that, it's changed again, which is we'll get the permanent one, within a few weeks. So it literally has been changing week by week, day by day, because of the effort from a lot of folks, as Brian already said. So, but just for the committee to understand that this has been a rapidly changing, a dilemma or just, scenario, and has had many different iterations. So, but thank you, Brian, and others from WT Rich, marshaling the resources. So appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Yeah, we're holding our breath and hoping that's going to be installed. So, moving on with the project activities. Most of these are pretty similar to last month, with all the team members contributing to the success of the project. One party that we don't have listed on here is the commissioning team, who plays an important role in delivering a well-functioning building for the city. And we spoke a little bit about their role last month, and we're going to dive into that a little bit more today. I've asked Mike Papagni from NV5 to join us on this call for a bit and share some of the efforts that they go through during the construction process. They're working on the commissioning as well as with BEA on the exterior. And, Mike can share with you some of the work that they've been doing up until now, what they're currently looking at, and then what's still coming down the pipeline. So I don't know if we have Mike on here now as a presenter.
Do you guys, can you see me?
Yep.
Let me stop sharing here.
Hey, Brian.
Oh, okay. There you are. Got my name under you, so it's a little confusing.
Okay.
So thanks for joining us, Mike.
Sure.
Maybe if you could just tell us a little bit about, the kind of work that you've done up until now. You started with submittal reviews and things of that nature. what's going on presently, and then what are some of the larger items that are still coming down the pipeline to make sure that the building gets turned over and functioning properly for the city. And just, how you provide this role not only for Gloucester, but also for the MSBA and the money that they have invested into the project.
Sure. So, hi, my name's Mike Papagni. I'm a senior mechanical commissioning engineer and project manager for NV5. We're the commissioning agents for this project in East Gloucester. We do work under the MSBA, so we're not directly under any element of the city or the OPM. We work directly under MSBA for their the funded portion of the project. So basically, from the get-go of the commissioning process, we've done design reviews when the documents came out, and design development, 60% CDs and 90% CDs, and we provided comments back to the design team for them to incorporate into the project designs, and respond back to any issues that we see in the drawing sets. Once the project goes into construction and all the trades get selected, we've been doing submittal reviews. Also, we do that in conjunction with the design team. We provide all our submittal comments back to the design team in the MSBA, and they can review them, incorporate any comments for the submittal process for when the equipment is purchased. We also have so NV5 is responsible for the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, MEP systems. We also have a subconsultant, BEA. They do the building envelope commissioning. So BEA also participates in the design reviews and submittal reviews. At this point in time, they've been out to the site 7 times for site visits, and they've been witnessing functional testing for air and water infiltration on many of the window and curtain wall installations that have been done to date. I believe on this job, which has been a good thing, is that they haven't found any deficiencies to date with the window installations and curtain wall. Everything's been passing on air and water tests. NV5 side, we've been out there 2 times as the construction has been ongoing. Again, typically the building envelope happens a little earlier than the MEP systems getting in. We've been out there twice, provided field reports for the projects. We find some deficiencies with the installations. We provide a corrective log that gets issued to all the team members, so they can follow up on it with the trades. Once construction is complete, and balancing has been completed and the control systems have been completed, we will then be on site in the future to do functional testing of all the systems as they're integrated into the BMS, so that they're all working as the design and for the sequences and the approved submittals. So they're working as efficiently as possible. The school's getting all the alarms they need for any system failures and other reasons they may be getting alarms in, and all that testing gets documented along the way. Same thing, any corrective actions that are needed get logged in, and then the trades will assess them and correct the items as they come about. Majority of the testing occurs with HVAC systems. We'll also be looking at any metering integrations, and we're also looking at lighting control systems once they're complete to make sure they're operating properly. Once construction is complete and a substantial completion date has been established, we come back 10 months into the warranty period to do a walkthrough with CBRE and Doran Whittier and GGD and probably WT Rich, and if the facilities people are available then, and we'll review any operating deficiencies that have been encountered with the building as it's, now owned and operated. So as you're under the warranty period, those items can still get corrected by the construction trades under the warranty coverage. Past that point, after construction complete, we'll also start doing documentation uploads for the LEED certification for the project, compiling our documents and uploading them for the LEED site to get that process going. On this project, we also have under the MSBA work order, we will be doing a monitoring-based commissioning segment, which is basically the first year of operation of the school. We will be reviewing actual energy usage against predicted energy usage from the energy model that the design team develops. We'll be doing a quarterly review of trending data to confirm proper operation and satisfactory indoor conditions, such as temperatures in the spaces are as they should be for the heating and cooling modes, and they're not too hot, too cold, or out of range. And also any carbon monoxide CO levels within the space are not getting above the limits that they should be. So that'll be done on a quarter review. We'll get the trends from the likely through the controls contractor through the BMS system. And then we will also be preparing a report to summarize any of the operational deficiencies, trend results, and the controls findings through that first year period of operation, which is part of just another LEED segment for monitoring-based commissioning. So that's the big overview of the commissioning process for the school. I know right now they're in the realm of looking to start up one of the rooftop units. So we're coordinating with WT Rich as to when that's going to happen over the next few weeks. I believe they can try to get some air into the building, probably getting some heating going to start finishes on the job. So that's where we are right now. Does anybody have any questions on any of those many items I just went over?
Yeah, I would just like to say the BMS, so for those people that don't know, that's the building management system. So those are like the smart controls for the building. And I think, like with all these things that Mike described, it's all those things that oftentimes we take for granted when we're in a building, that the building functions properly, that the lights turn on, that we have the right light levels so that we can read, that we're not too warm, not too cold, we have enough oxygen, all those things. So besides, designing it, of course, that's very important. Bringing all the pieces together and getting them constructed is essential. But if they're not integrated right and they're not tuned properly, you're still not going to have a well-functioning building. So that's really the role of the commissioning agent, as Mike described in detail, which I think is very helpful. And also to understand, that this isn't just a one-time thing that's done, right at the beginning, but there is follow-up also down the road to make sure that, as time progresses, that the building is still functioning properly during the first year before the warranty expires.
Correct.
Yeah. Any questions for Mike? Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us. That was very informative and helpful for the committee. So we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And we'll look forward to seeing you on site.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye.
Okay. Go back here. The next thing I think we have is to go over some of the financials. So, yeah, there's really not too much to update here. We continue to be in good financial shape, and we're roughly, I would say, about 3/4 of the way through the project. If we look here, our contracts They're pretty much the same as they were last month, but this will be changing as we start to roll out some of these purchase orders for the furniture and the technology procurement. We did have one, we paid part of that invoice a little earlier for some technology, but we do have a package that's coming through. I mean, I got it just the other day for the furniture. So that's almost finalized. There's a few last minute modifications that need to be made, but then that'll be a big package that'll be submitted. So that's for contracts. For change orders, we have had quite a bit, I guess, in the last month that have trickled in. Some of those have been owner activities and some of them have been construction issues. We're now over 100 of PCOs that have been issued to date. And on change orders, we have change order number 2 now that has been completed. This was for $6,317. And it was a compilation of different debit and credit change orders. So it included modifications to the toilet accessories, generator enclosure, electrical revisions, fire alarm changes, upgrades to the art room flooring, that was the epoxy floor, and then also some mechanical and plumbing revisions. But as I said, they're both debit and credit change orders. So back many months ago when we were looking at the generator, with some, I guess, attention to detail and creativity, we were able to find a more cost-effective solution to the generator enclosure. And that saved nearly $50,000 in construction costs and helped to offset a lot of these other changes. So that's why the net amount is only $6,000. And the epoxy flooring, that was something that we were able to add back in. We had originally cut that out during the value engineering process due to lack of funds, but that was very desirable for the school. So we're glad to be able to put that back into the project. But the full document for that change order is in your package. I think it's almost 160 pages long, but documents all the details of these changes. So speaking of contract changes, last month, we also had a meeting with the PCO subcommittee to review some of the owner desired project changes for the school. So we've been having a few of these meetings, I guess, since the project began, to closely manage the budget while allowing for the maximum amount of add backs that had been cut out during the value engineering phase. So because of the good financial performance on this project, we've been able to include some of those in the past. And this last meeting was kind of our final list of items that were prioritized. And we kind of reached the deadline and kicking that can down the road to see if, what the financial situation was going to be like. So now we had to pull the trigger and see if we were going to add these back into the project or not. So we reviewed all these items, and the subcommittee made the recommendation to add a number of items back into the project. So I'm going to run through these here to let you know what they are. So the first one is for benches. We originally had a number of granite benches on the project. All those were removed during the value engineering phase. We found a more cost-effective alternative. It's a concrete bench, but it looks very similar to the granite that was originally in the design. And then we've gone through and we've reduced the count in some of the benches to something that was more reasonable. So we have now 9 of these concrete benches that are added. And then we also had 2 more benches here that were wood. So we felt as a group that that was a satisfactory number for the operation of the school. So that's the first one. That was around roughly $75,000. The second item is for these raised planting beds. That's going to be for, I believe it's called the backyard garden growers. So we have these in 2 locations. This is sort of what they look like. So that'll allow this important program for the school to continue, because that had to be eliminated. Now that there was a possibility that these could have been built by someone else in the future, because we left room for that. But now we'll be able to have them from day one with the school. The third item was for trash receptacles. Something that is needed, but wasn't as important as some of the other items. So we'll have 3 of these, one near the entrance, one near the kindergarten playground, and then one near the playground behind the school. And they're both for trash and recycling. So the planter beds were around 55. These are around 45,000. And the next thing was, during the value engineering phase, we had eliminated all the bollards around the back playground to try to save money. And we looked at using natural boulders instead. But in the end, the design didn't really work so well with how these were detailed with the connections to the ground. And so the recommendation was, if we had the money, to go back to what was in the initial design, which was to have these bollards in place. So this is something that we voted on, and the recommendation is to add these bollards kind of surrounding this playground area back into the project. They'll look similar to this. They're steel bollards that are going to be painted, and that'll provide protection from the cars and from plows that move around this area, because that's open to vehicles. So that's around 43,000. The next item was to add back some of the plantings. So there were more that had been cut out, but as we we went through this with the cost conscientious mindset, the decision was made to not include all of them, but include these that adjoined the neighboring property. So this is a steep slope here, and we have some trees and some large grasses. So I think that'll look very nice, and it'll also provide a little more privacy for some of the neighbors. And then the last item was a change. This was not something that we originally had in the design, but there was a request from the IT department to make some changes to the sprinkler system in the IT room. So this is something that is required by code to have, but we were able to make some modifications to the space to provide some greater protection for the servers that are housed in that location. And that was about $10,000. So we've started to get PCOs in on all of these, but they're not all finalized. So what I'd like to do is to have a vote. I mean, we can have a discussion if there's any questions about any of these things, but otherwise I would like to have a vote to authorize us to move forward with all of these, as has been recommended by the PCO subcommittee, and that we would set a not to exceed amount of $250,000 for all of these. So that is a large chunk of money, but given our financial state on the project, we feel that we'll be able to move ahead and satisfactorily complete the remaining part of the work within the budget and within the available contingencies that we have to cover items such as that. So are there any questions about any of these items or any discussion before we move to a vote?
Okay, any questions before we make a motion?
Any comments?
Any comments? We spent a lot of time on this at the PCO.
Yeah,
I'm really excited to see all these things come back. I remember when we had to do that exercise of cutting some things out, and it was like a knife in the heart, but it's so great to see these things coming back. Really excited. Great work.
Yeah, there's really nice things from the school.
Imagine a knife in the heart. Might be worse, but we get it.
That's how seriously I take this.
This is true. Matt is Matt is not only taking this building very seriously, but he's also very, very excited about it. I saw him present some of the drawings to the incoming kindergarten families. we're having kindergarten information nights all this week at our elementary schools. And so the East Veterans one took place at East Gloucester on, I think it was Tuesday, maybe.
Yeah,
And Matt did a great job of showing people and explaining the different types of rooms and the different components of each room. And so no, I know you're taking it really seriously, Matt, which is great. And I echo your thoughts about just bringing some of these things back. The benches, you know, there's safety things there, but also, you know, the bollards will look better and be better than the boulders, obviously. But there's also aesthetics, and there's also just, you know, using the site well. So nice things to have back in the project. And I still find it remarkable that we are able to, after all is said and done on this project, there are probably not many projects that are getting things back in at this stage of the game.
Mhm.
There are many more projects out there who are still taking things out, even though they're in construction. So
I especially like adding back in the concrete benches because I think having gathering spaces for people and having the message come and stay is really important, both for, you know, community members who might be walking around the neighborhood, as well as the families and the children. So I think that's a terrific add back.
Yeah, and the ones in the front were arranged so that they could be used as a teaching space as well. So that'll be a nice thing for the students during the school day.
Anything else? Okay, if the questions are all answered and comments are made, I will make a motion that we approve the 4 items as presented. The return of the benches, the replacement of the boulders with bollards, and the plantings on the hill, as well as the changes in the fire suppression system in the IT room.
Sorry, there's also the trash receptacles
and the trash receptacles
and the planters.
and
and
yeah.
the planters.
I thought there was the epoxy flooring too.
So the epoxy flooring was already approved, and that's already been processed in a change order, and that was covered with some of the savings that we had from the generator enclosure. But we do have 6 items. So they're the benches, the raised planter beds, the trash receptacles, the bollards, the plantings on the slope, and the sprinkler changes.
And it was not to exceed amount of
$250,000.
$250,000. And I so move.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, yes, can we have a roll call vote?
Yes, sir. Jonathan Pope,
Yes.
thank you. Ben Lemus,
yes.
thank you. Katie Clancy,
Yes.
thank you. Richard Safar,
Yes.
thank you. Matthew Fusco,
Yes,
thank you. Grant Harris,
Yes.
thank you. Gary Fresh,
Yes.
thank you. Caitlin Nunes,
Yes.
thank you. Stacy Capone, thank you.
Okay, it passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to, or back to the updates, I guess.
Okay, you should be able to see my screen again.
Mhm.
Okay, so here we have our cash flow. The first one is for the cumulative for the project. And then here the monthly. So you can see there's not really much change. You know, we're kind of at the peak of the construction. So the billings are at the highest, and then they'll start to taper off in the months to come. Same cash flows, you know, for the individuals. I'll skip through some of this stuff so we don't spend too much time on it. So looking at the schedule here, you can see we're well into the finishes, and that does pretty much align exactly with what's going on the site. So that's very good. You know, we do continue to face challenges, and, you know, we talked about the transformer. That was a big one, but there are other ones that are ongoing and new ones that continually come up with material availability. So it continues to be a challenge, but so far we're still tracking well. The latest schedule update shows a 5-day lag, but based on the activities that still need to be completed, we're confident that we can still deliver the project on time. So we have our next school building committee meeting on March 9th. And we also have set the date for the city council site visit. And that is on March 27th at 3:30. Is there anything that you want to say about that, Jonathan?
Is that March or February?
March,
March?
yes.
You're muted, Jonathan.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. Nothing in particular. We'll send invitations to city council and hopefully they will show up.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
Brian,
Yes.
can I suggest also, sooner than not, to possibly bring in some more people that will be working in the building from a DPW maintenance and custodial, so they can see some of the building before it's all closed up, before everything's closed up, so they just kind of feel involved in the project and understand some of the approaches, even though there's, really detailed videos of what's behind the walls. I think just having them have that view into the building before it's all, too far along, even from now, might just be nice for them and maybe helpful going forward for them as well. And that, obviously that would be, you project team, who's on site, much more, they'll have questions that only you guys can answer. There'd be no need for anybody else to really be along on that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. We have actually been discussing that already. We don't have a date set, but we have reached out to the DPW to start to schedule that.
Right.
So yeah, that's a great time to see all these things before they get closed up.
Yeah.
Okay. So looking on to the different team members, the OPM continues to perform a variety of tasks, keep the train on the tracks. Recently been working with the city and the MSBA on the reimbursement requests. So in December, we submitted the first request since the lawsuit. That was for the outstanding invoices for the construction manager. And a check was sent out, I believe, for about $10 million that the city should have cashed by now. The second reimbursement was submitted in January. So a check should be forthcoming for that pretty soon from the MSBA. And then this month, we're going to work on the final catch-up phase of all the outstanding reimbursement requests for past invoices. So that would be for the OPM and for a lot of the other smaller ones like the testing agency, other POs that we have. So we should be caught up by the end of this month with all the reimbursement requests. And I would say we're probably, well over halfway towards that maximum grant. Also this month, we're going to be preparing the change order reviews for the MSBA that needs to be submitted by the 1st of March. So with these change orders that we have, we do our best to provide all the necessary supporting documentation to enable the reimbursement request, but it's up to the MSBA whether they will participate on that or not. So some items they do historically participate. Other ones, a lot of times owner-driven ones, they typically don't. But this case is a little unusual. I met with the MSBA a few weeks ago when we walked the job site, and I pointed out, for example, the classroom window seats. That was part of the initial design that the MSBA supported and that they agreed to fund. And we had to remove them because there wasn't enough cost to meet the budget at the time that the bids came in. But thankfully, because, our finances have been going pretty well throughout the project, we were able to add those back in. So I kind of pointed out, if we didn't have them there was just going to be a big empty space in the classroom. And it was really part of the initial design. This was not something that the school district or this city decided after the fact, hey, we'd like to add something to the project. So we'll do our best to express that to the MSBA and encourage them to reimburse those types of things. But, that's not anything that I can guarantee. The MSBA has their own objectives, and how they support communities and what items they fund and how they try to spread that money out. So we'll have to see what happens after those change orders are reviewed as to what they're willing to participate on. Moving on with the community updates. Last month, there weren't really any major issues. We have continued with some Saturday work. This has been needed to keep the project on schedule with a lot of these material delay issues that we've had. We have issued requests to all the workers to limit any noise before 8 a.m. There had been one complaint. It was kind of a mild complaint, but somebody that was a little bit annoyed that at one day there was some noise before that. So far that's been pretty good. We're expecting some deliveries in the next few weeks that shouldn't really have an impact on the community, but it will mean that there are larger vehicles moving in and out of the site. Those should be for the doors and the millwork. And then come the 1st of March, we'll start receiving some deliveries for some of the larger site items. Earlier, we spoke about the transformer with National Grid. So while that is fantastic news that it looks like we're going to get the permanent transformer earlier than the last update, one of the things related to that is that they will need to shut down the power on the street on a temporary basis. We're expecting that work to happen probably February 20 or 21st. National Grid will be sending out notices. Actually, they should have probably already been received by the residents at this point. But the projected date is February 20 and 21st. Once that connection is made, the site will lose power then for about a week. So during that time, we're going to have to run a temporary generator that'll need to run 24 hours a day to keep the building climatized. But I don't think it's really going to be much of a disruption with the noise, even though it will be 24 hours a day. I've been told that the generator will run at about 60 decibels. So just for reference, that's the level of communication that maybe we're having right now, like from one person to another, a few feet apart. If two people are talking, that's about how loud that is, or maybe what you'd experience in an office. And in addition to that, we're trying to look at some ways to reduce it even further with some sound dampening around the generator. So that's kind of being worked out. So we're doing our best to minimize it, but there will be some noise that wouldn't be there otherwise for that week. So that's it for the community. Let's see, the design updates. There's not too much on this stuff. The architects continue to be busy with returning submittals and handling RFIs. We do have some updates though on some of the design items. So we've updated the plaque. This is not the final iteration. There's a few tweaks that are happening. I think some of the names were off, but this is basically what it's going to look like. We've gone to a larger size and we've included both current and former members for a lot of these parties. So it'll be nice to have that recognition for everyone that contributed to this project within the building. Another update is on the artwork for the school. So this has been a challenge to get the right artwork together. We're still not there, but this is sort of the direction that we're going. This image here on the right, this is an image that we came across that was really liked by a lot of people on the committee, but we're still tracking down the right ownership to see if we can use this image on the project. And then the other images over here, so these are going to be photographs. So this one here on the right is going to go actually on the left when you come into school. It'll be quite large on the mural between two display cases, and then there'll be some furnishings in front of it. These smaller images are going to be up higher on the wall, and these are going to be photographs. And the concept here is that there's a photograph that represents Portuguese Hill and Webster Street, one that represents East Gloucester, Harbor Point, and then one that represents kind of the link between those two spaces, which is the working harbor. So Josh from Doran Whittier has been working with the school district and Ben and the art teachers within the high school to try to have students maybe participate with some of this, but the timing is kind of an issue if we want to get photography that shows the trees in bloom. So if we have to wait till then, we're not going to be able to get these pictures installed in time. They'll probably have to go in sometime after substantial completion. So I just want to pass this along. If anyone knows any artists that have some images of this already that you think would be appropriate for the school, please connect with myself or anyone else on the team to get that information passed along. Because if we can find these 3 photographs that are satisfactory that we can use, then we can get them, the canvases printed out, we can get them mounted, we can do it while the equipment's already there during the construction phase, and it'll be a much smoother process. So if we can't, it's not the end of the world, we'll still be able to complete the work, but it is going to add a layer of complication. So that's it for the arts. Another update is on the logos. So these here are not final, but they're moving in that direction. So we have an assortment here. I think they're turning out to be very nice to have, the old veterans with the eagle and the East Gloucester together with the new mascot being the Blue Sharks. So we're going to have one of these on the gym floor, which will be a really nice addition to the gym. And I think it'll go nicely with the padding on the wall. And speaking of the gym floor, we've had some discussions internally about gym floors recently relative to the impacts that they occur from seasonal changes. So I thought we should probably just take a moment to provide some insights on this topic so that there's an understanding of what to expect once the floor is installed, and then how these wood gym floors adjust to the seasonal variations. So Brad from Doran Whittier, I think, is on the call. It's going to maybe have him give us a little bit of an overview of what to expect, in the next few years once the wood flooring is installed. So Brad, do you want to give us a little overview?
Yeah, sure. So some of you may remember back in the West Parish days, we talked a little bit about the same thing, right? What happens is when we're putting the wood floor down in the gym, right? It's a natural product. So, and in particular here in New England, we experience, expansion and contraction, with wood when it's in the wintertime and everything's dry, it contracts. And in the summertime, it expands back again. And so what ends up happening is sometimes in the wintertime, what happens, particularly with a newer floor, you start to see some gapping that occurs on some of the wood planks there. And over time, this starts to kind of self-heal a little bit, if you will. But, we want to make everybody aware of it because it does happen. And there's not a whole heck of a lot that you can do about it. Part of it, and, I think Brian reached out to one of the trade industry groups, the Wood Flooring Institute, something like that. And they provided a letter which, talked about, the fact that it does occur and, gave a couple of proposed ways of trying to mitigate that. I don't know if we necessarily agree with all of the ways that they had proposed to mitigate it, but we did just want to make, the committee aware that this takes place. We follow all of the manufacturer's recommendations in terms of making sure that the humidity is correct and appropriate when we install it. So WT Rich, depending upon the environment, will either be humidifying the air or dehumidifying the air, depending on the season that it's actually going in. So again, we just wanted to make you aware of that. It's also, I guess, there's some discussion about whether or not today, the use of water-based products versus oil-based products, has helped contribute to this. I guess that's up for debate. But the bottom line is we do see some of that gapping, and we just want to make sure that, people are aware of that it is, kind of part of what happens when you install a wood floor. But again, over time, that starts to kind of, again, mitigate itself. In particular, after you've gotten, some years on it, and, you start to, at some point, you'll end up refinishing that. That also helps to, kind of mitigate some of that, but nothing extreme. But, I think people's perception is, it's a brand new floor, and then all those seams should be 100% perfectly tight. And if any of you have wood floors at your house, yeah, I'm sure you experience this, every year. So I know I'm sitting in my kitchen right now and got a little gapping going on in my maple floor here. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you.
Yeah, I think it's just about getting the expectations out, like you said, Brad. Sometimes everyone's different, and you have a new school, new floor. Sometimes people might think, well, it should look a certain way, and so we've had that on other projects as well, where maybe people didn't fully understand what to expect, and then it's a surprise, and it's always harder to deal with it after the fact than just understanding up front the way that these things work. The previous home that I had old wide pine flooring, and every winter there was a big difference in the movement in those, because there weren't as many gaps in joints as you have on a more modern floor. So these things are just part of wood flooring. As Brad said, whoever has them in their house probably already is aware of these things, but it's just a matter of bringing everyone up to speed on what to expect. So no questions. Okay, thanks, Brad. Appreciate it. So let's move on here. Okay, moving on to the construction. They continue to be busy. You can see we have over 100,000 worker hours to date, and thankfully still no accidents. Here we have our updated milestones. The roofing and the rough-in are pretty much complete. We just need to make sure those dates are fully correct, but that work is pretty much done. And here you can see where we are in the schedule. So this line here represents substantial completion. There's still work that's done after this, so that's important to understand. But you can see we're getting pretty close to that. We started talking today about preparing for some of these closeout activities for the different workers. So we're really kind of rounding out the last round, if you will, towards completion. So it's all very exciting stuff. And I'll turn it over to Alex for our drone video. I heard that there had been an accident, but I guess they got the drone up and running again.
No, he plans to present the open space application.
We took a drone video this morning. However, the upload, the high def upload through YouTube isn't looking as good as I thought it would for tonight. So if you don't mind, Brian, I'd like to go back to the open space this week or this month.
Yeah, and I think that'll be good because there has been a lot of work going on inside, and now you'll be able to see that in more detail.
Can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right, so we're on the third floor of A building. We've talked about this quite a bit, but that's the progress of construction for us has always been third floor down to second floor down to first floor. So I kind of wanted to give you guys, an update on where we stand as those finishes, as Brian mentioned, start to go into place. So no, your floor is not blue. It's protected right now. We probably have 50% of the floor down on the third floor at this point. Again, that linoleum sheet good that you have in West Parish is being installed here as well. I did want to show you sort of, a typical classroom for those of you that haven't been in the building for quite a while. The enormity of this space. You can see the built-ins at this point, pretty much complete. You can see the window benches that we installed. We're holding off on obviously putting the fabric down until we're more finished within the building. But yeah, this is just kind of a 360 of a typical classroom. Again, wide open, bright, clean, probably a lot different than Matt and Amy were used to at the old schools. So, we're in really good shape in terms of finishes. You can see just how clean this floor is. You could practically eat off it as they prepared for the flooring installation. And again, the folding panel partition doors that separate the classrooms, those should be going in within the next couple of weeks. But yeah, you can just see kind of how these spaces flow into one another in a typical classroom or a typical cluster of classrooms.
And Alex, we've been good with the moisture, right, on the floor. There haven't been any issues with that.
Yeah, we actually, Brian, that's a good point. We made an executive decision early on this project to do MVRA, which is a moisture, retardant. So basically, when you have a concrete slab, moisture tends to, migrate out of that slab. But with this product that's baked into the slab, it really doesn't allow that moisture content to leave, which, eliminates the need for us to do any sort of moisture mitigation or floor prep, avoid floor popping and things of that nature. So we've used that product quite a bit on past projects, and it works out pretty well for us and the end user. So I was hoping to get a shot of the bathroom, but you can't see it that great. I'll bring you down to the second floor as we get into the media center, some of these larger spaces. So you can see we're pretty much drywalled in the media center at this point. You can see the glue lambs above. Just sort of the enormity of the space as well. It's really open. It's really bright. It's a pretty nice, unique space. And then we've got, if I back up here, for those of you that remember, we've got that overhead sort of nice decorative garage door, for lack of a better term, that's going to allow access from the media center, sort of this workspace in the media center, to the art room, which is a pretty cool, unique feature within the school. Take you over to the gym now. We have the ceiling painted out at this point. We're starting to install the basketball equipment. You guys can see that in the back. And obviously taping, sanding, and getting our coats of paint on as we prepare to install that wood floor that we talked about earlier. So typically we like to get as much done up high as we can. That way we're not driving lifts or other sort of heavy equipment on that finished wood floor. So it's really kind of the last thing we want to do as we work our way out of the building. I'll bring you down to the first floor. Admin space. I'm not sure how this is going to translate in this program, but we're in really good shape down there. We've got basically it all primed, painted. Again, good natural light within these office spaces, high ceilings. We'll start getting to the finishes in B building relatively soon. And the cafeteria and kitchen, sort of the last space we're working through in B building. Food service equipment, we got our industrial hoods in during the week. And we also have our cooler freezer installed as of today. So this space is starting to come along. It's going to take off as soon as we get tile and floor and then a lot of the stainless steel and new food service equipment into place. Last but not least, I'll just kind of bring you outside again for those of you who may not have driven through or by recently. You can see the green girt system, which is part of the metal wall panel system being installed with the insulation. And again, the metal wall panel starting to be installed on this feature wall of the media center. Kind of a cool, Tetris-like pattern being worked on the outside. So that's kind of it, big picture progress where we are this month. I don't know if anyone has any questions, but I'd be happy to answer them.
It's looking good.
Looks great.
Yeah, we're starting site finishes in March, so things are really going to start to take off exterior wise around the building. Be pretty cool.
Great.
We've got a good winter. Knock on wood.
So far.
Yeah. Turn it back
All
over to you, Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Okay, well, that's pretty much all I have. Some of you were on the call at the very beginning, and I think others joined later. So for those of you who didn't hear, I'm sad to say that Yash will be leaving our team to move on to some other projects. He's got his hands full with some new projects that he's taking responsibility for, and including the new shopping center. So it'll be sad to see him go, and thank Yash for all of his efforts and behind the scenes work.
Yes, thank you, Yash.
Thank you.
Ash.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
But it's bittersweet. We do have some good news as well. And that is Chris Tremblay, who many of you will remember from previously. He was on the project for about a year or so, something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that. With COVID time, it's all a blur.
So he'll be taking over for Yash, just like Yash took over for Chris back, I guess, about a year ago, a year and a half.
Yeah.
Now, time flies. It's hard to keep track of it. So Yash will finish out with this meeting this month, and he's also still helping out with the MSBA reimbursement requests and making sure that all those invoices are in Diane's hands, and that those get processed smoothly. But then next month, Chris will take over for Yash with the roll calls and meeting minutes and so forth. So a little bit of a change, but things will keep moving along smoothly, and wish the best to Yash and his other projects, and happy to have Chris back on the team. So that's pretty much all I have to report. Does anyone have any other items or new business?
No. Nope. Seeing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Yash, your final roll call vote in Gloucester.
Yeah. Hopefully we work again in the future. It was an honor, fun. Yeah. Jonathan Pope,
Yes.
thank you. Ben Lemus,
You may have gone.
Doesn't want to say goodbye to you.
He's overcome.
It was hard on him.
It's very hard on him.
Kathy Clancy,
Yes.
thank you. Richard Safar,
Yes.
thank you. Matthew Fusco,
Yes. Bye, Ash.
thank you so much. Grant Harris,
Yes.
thank you. Gary Fresh,
Yes. Bye, Ash.
thank you. Caitlin Onis,
Yes. Bye, Ash.
thank you. Stacy Capone,
Yes.
thank you. It's great working with you, and it has been fun working with Brad. And I know I've worked with Chris before too. So yeah, you're in safe hands.
Good luck to you.
Take
Good
care.
luck.
Thank
luck.
you.
With the new projects. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Night, everyone.
Everyone.
Good
Have a good
night.
night.